I think you've actually, Mr. Speaker, I think you've seen with that speech the problem that Labor has. They've got a finance spokesman there, someone who wants to be the Minister of Finance, who cannot finish a speech on time, cannot articulate an argument, and cannot get a key point across. It's a big problem. What he did say was whoever gets into government will have a fiscally responsible government. Well, I can tell you, we've got a 6-year record showing we are fiscally responsible. What he didn't actually tell you is that if these people were part of a government, they would be there with Russell Norman pulling the strings. And the big question would be, would the tax rates that Labor would impose be high enough for Russell Norman? Would the punishment of hard-working Kiwis be tough enough? Would Russell Norman be laying into the people he doesn't like hard enough? And he would be putting a lot of pressure on David Parker. So in the end, all that stuff David Parker is saying, it's absolutely, completely irrelevant, because if, as Chris Fidlerson says, the multi-headed Hydra gets into government, actually, I don't even know if there'd be room for old Clayton Cosgrove in the cabinet there. He would probably find his place was taken by the American lady from Mount Eden, who would suddenly become the spokesman for small business. Russell Norman, well, he could take David Parker's place. Old Annette King there, well, I mean, it'll probably be the bald-headed guy from the West Coast. He would end up being the Minister of Health. So you start to see the picture of a very different looking cabinet if these people got it. It might be nasty, but it's true. And Phil Goff, he would actually finally want to retire. Now, the problem is these guys have not come up with a single bit of policy. You know what their economic development idea for this week is? It's to bring back the moa. Bring back the moa from extinction. I think they'd be far better if they worked on something like bringing back David Longy, maybe bringing back Michael Joseph Savage, because frankly, without someone inspirational from the past, chromosomally re-engineered, these guys have absolutely no hope at the next election. And if they ever got the Treasury benches, I can tell you the budgets would be bad, bad news for New Zealand. And then if you look what we've got, well, basically nearly 4% economic growth over the past year, the third highest rate in the OECD. 1,500 people every week moving off welfare into work. 1,500 people. So actually, we are getting the country moving ahead. 84,000 new jobs in the last year. That's growth. That's economic development. That is responsible fiscal management. There's a very coherent plan there. But look at the budget. Through tight economic times, what have we done? We've actually preserved the entitlements for the most vulnerable New Zealanders. We've got a $500 million package there that for families, you know, free GP visits for under 6s, paid parental leave. Under 13s, even better news. So, you know, we are focusing on actually getting the country ahead at the same time as protecting the most vulnerable. Jerry Brownlee's $221 million regional roads package at the weekend. That's infrastructure that I can tell you, the Green Cabinet, they would stop that, because the Greens don't like roads. They don't like the regions. They don't come from the regions, most of those people, except for the bald guy from the West Coast. They are not interested in regional...
Point of order, the Honourable...
Mr Speaker, I would have thought you would have stopped that sort of behaviour. Naming a Member of Parliament in that way is just not acceptable.
I thank the member. That's not necessary. I'm on my feet. I'd ask the Minister to confirm... I'm on my feet. I'd ask the Minister to confine his comments... Listen. To confine his comments to the estimates, and I remind members on pages 128 and 129 of the Speaker's rulings, that is a debate that we are on, and while some latitude is allowed, I will ask the Minister to bring his focus back to the estimates debate. I'm calling the Honourable Dr Jonathan...
I know you would have been so sensitive, Mr Chair, about that sort of matter. I've made a jest.
Now, I am on my feet. Now, the member will apologise for those comments.
I apologise, Mr Chair.
Now, sit down. You cannot comment on anything that the presiding officer says, which you did do. Now, I'm calling the Honourable Dr.
So when you look at this spending package, when you look at this is a carefully thought out package focused on the needs of New Zealanders. And I can tell you, when you look at what these guys have come up with, David Parker, the one idea he's personally come up with is something called the big tool. So how you do that, you actually use people's KiwiSaver to control inflation. Well, I mean, you know, how is that going to appeal to their core base out there? In the end, what it means is their core voter will be told, sorry, inflation's going up, are you going to have less money in the pocket to spend each week? Absolutely nuts. David Parker is the architect of that. And you can tell how agitated these guys are getting over there because they are under real pressure. It's falling apart in their caucus, eh? They've got no plan. They're deeply frustrated.
Order. Back on the estimates.
Oh, come on. This is... Look,
No.
I'm sorry.
No. The member said. The member said. I mentioned earlier about relevancy and coming back to the estimates debate, and you're in the final few seconds, and it's a matter of being able to. This is a peroration of your 5-minute speech, and to bring together those points that you want to make relevant on the estimates. And I'll ask the member in the last few seconds to confine his comments to that. Dr. Coleman.
The point I'm making, you look at the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance managing the economy very soundly for 6 years, a very sound economic plan which has delivered for New Zealanders. These people can shout as much abuse as they like, but out there we are connecting with the electorate. The National Party is objective and relevant to New Zealanders.
Calling Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, on behalf of the Green Party, I want to make